Our next speaker is Graeme Atkins from Raukumara Pai Maunga. He was speaking on protecting our taonga from a te ao Māori view. I'll have to read this one off, I'm not going to ad-lib it. It is impossible to write a bio for Graeme Atkins in just one paragraph. How to summarise a man, a career, awards and achievements without talking about his grandparents, wife Makere, his home, whānau, community, friends, whakapapa and tupuna. How to focus on his lifetime of learning, dedication, training and mahi for te taio in a way that also acknowledges the intergenerational expertise in rongoa, native and introduced plants and animals, climatic conditions and expert knowledge of te raukumara. And how to talk about the incredible things Graeme has already done for te taio when he is still so young. We won't say how old. When he is still so young and has so many years ahead of him, so much yet to give, share, teach, learn and change for the better. It is impossible. So instead, some key phrases to try and sum up Graeme. Ngāti parau. It's a good place to start. The Hāti Ngāti. Have we got any Ngāti parau here? How many? Yeah, thank you. That's it. Oh, just one person? I'll try that again. Is there any Ngāti parau out there? Two. We've got two now. Thank you. Awesome. Rongo mai wahine. East Coast. State Highway 35. And Makere. Is Makere here? Kehia Makere, is she here today? Kia ora Makere. Science, matauranga, whānau, rongoa, culture, historian, protector of ngutu kaka. That should be ngutu kawa, shouldn't it? Ngutu kawa, also known as the kakabeak. Advocate of the mighty Raukumara forest, which is now on the brink of collapse. And I think we know that people talk about the brink of collapse as you get to a certain point and bang, it dives off. But I think we've seen up in the Kaimais and other places the brink of collapse is actually more of a slow collapse of the forest as the canopy comes down and things slowly disappear. Dock worker, now Raukumara Pai Maunga, Kaimahi, Tōtara, Te Pua o Te Reinga, that's Dactylanthus. Passionate, expertise, mana, integrity. This is starting to sound like Game of Thrones, isn't it? You know, they introduce those people. Father of dragons, hunter, gatherer, provider, teacher, predator controller, beach cleaner upperer. We've probably all done a bit of that as well. Advocate, networker, founder, Loader Cup and Kiwi Bank Local Hero of the Year winner. Kia ora. Educator, organiser, inspirational speaker, storyteller, warrior for te taio, fighter, dad, husband, friend, uncle, cousin, friend to many except for the slugs and the snails that climb on the ngutu kawa on drizzly nights. So ladies and gentlemen, Matua Graeme Atkins, Katiaki no Rua Toria ia. Bro, can you beat your own bio? Yeah. Okay.
I never regret, so yeah, a little bit nervous now. I was all keen to go, but after that, yeah. So.
Oh, here you go. While you, I'll just whack that on. Cover.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Kia ora. Yeah, kia ora koutou. Tēnei te mihi te haukainga. Nai te rangi me te iwi katoa o tauranga moana. Tēnā koe. Yeah, just a big mihi to all the volunteers in here. I've been lucky enough to do this mahi in a paid role for about 30 years next year, so I know how hard the grind is, and so really cool to be amongst like-minded people doing the do. Yeah, so this talk, there might have been a few in here that I gave it about a month ago in Rotorua, So there might be a few that has already seen this, but yeah, it's sort of, I used to work for the department, so I work for our iwi now, so it's like the muzzles come off, so there's, yeah, I don't dodge the elephant in the room as far as landscape scale protection, so yeah, our previous speaker, a really, really meaty subject there, so I think you delivered that well. Yeah, and so, hope this works. Yeah, so, ko hikurangi te maunga, ko waiapu te awa, ko raukumara te ngahere, ko Ngāti Parau te iwi, no tikapa awau. Yeah, so I've been doing this mahi for about 30 years in the tile restoration space, and yeah, you through that mahi you sort of quickly realise that, especially in the pest control space, that it's never ending, and there's never going to be enough money to do what needs to be done. So I'll just share with you a few highlights of the 30 years. As our man said in the introduction, you're not going to be able to squeeze it all in half an hour, so I'll just some of my personal highlights. So yeah, this photo here was from about 30 years ago, and on that day I found 200 nguti kaka. They are kaka.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, kaka beak. So yeah, and those are them in the background. So it was yeah, a few decades ago. I've always had interest in plants. In my rongo mai wahine whakapapa, we whakapapa to a tohunga who was his speciality was the rongoa Māori, so the medicinal sides of the plants, and so I like to think that a little bit of his influences rubbed off on me why the interest and passion in our plants. So with our nguti kaka, we last year we did, or 2 years ago, we managed to get our hands on kaka beak. Was first discovered by Europeans in the Noda Bay. That's a little bay just north of Tolaga, and through one of my friends, Dame Ann Salmon, she managed to get us some seeds from Kew Gardens, and they were seeds from the original plants that were taken by the Banks and Solander and the Endeavour crew back to England in 1769, and so we managed to plant them back at the spiritual home of nguti kaka, which was at Noda Bay, so with the local schools, and we planted them back into marae. So they were the Endeavour crew were in the Noda Bay back in October 1769, and that's when these plants flower in spring. And so we their descriptions were that they were growing around the homes, around the dwellings of the natives, and I think that wasn't just for aesthetic reasons. You know, they're pretty flower, but you can eat the pods. So, you know, in a land lacking in vegetable proteins, I think they were there for practical reasons as well. Plus, in those days, the bush would have been dripping with birds. So the tui and the korimako that I've got in my hand in that photo, they would have come down to the flower. So I caught the bellbird with my own hand as it was feeding on the flower. So it's just to show you how easy it would have been when there was millions of birds. It would have been even, you know, far easier. So yeah, I was just sharing stuff that I've been involved with over the years. So worked with bats, you know, both long and short tail bats. Kakapo, did a couple of nest minding stints with looking after the kakapo nests, and so the first stint I done was looking after old Sirocco. Everyone knows Sirocco, the kakapo. Yeah, I was lucky enough that I was there week 9 and 10, so they were all pretty much already at 3 kgs in weight, and they were ready to leave the nest. And Sirocco is the famous bird for shagging the cameraman's head. So yeah, I was lucky enough to look after him and his two siblings for a couple of weeks on a remote island, and so one of the definite highlights. So plus worked with fuel, kōkako, tuatara, done quite a few petrol translocations over the years. And native frogs. So there's a native frog in that photo. Just this.
Yeah, found it.
Yeah, this very photo here was one of our trips into the Raukumara. So I took Minister Sage when she was our conservation minister, Eugenie, and she had never seen native frogs before. So I was lucky that I was one that enlightened her to the wonder of our native frogs. So you can see it just the green and in the middle. Any ideas on what this is? Yeah, so it's shit. possum droppings to be more. Yeah, so but that's what's in that shit. That's important, and so you can see those the brown bits in there. Those are they're bracts, so there's like scales on the outside of Dactylanthus flowers, and so I was in charge of a project at East Cape that used to look after what we thought was only like a couple of hundred Dactylanthus plants, or pu o terenga. We call it puti or te aopori in our part of the world. But yeah, we knew there was a couple of hundred plants there, but while doing the pest control, and possums are the main threat. And while we were doing, I just noticed that there was these, the droppings, and they had a sort of a pinky purple colour about them when they were fresh. So I broke them open, and they sort of broke open on those scales, and I knew what those scales were. So when the possums eat the Dactylanthus flowers, they just scoff them. They don't really chew them. To get at the nectar. And so yeah. So after seeing them in the droppings, I wondered what it would look like in their stomachs. So yeah, those are the insides of possums, and so that the really pink purple colour at the top, that possum's been eating nothing but Dactylanthus flowers for about weeks, and so I knew what that was, and so from finding what we call those positive possums, we could, because it's a needle in a haystack. Anyone who's familiar with Dactylanthus, it grows on the roots of certain trees, and so it's hidden below the ground, so easy to miss them. And so really, really cryptic species. And at least through using these possums, we could, it was a powerful presence-absence tool. And then I was lucky enough that I had a little dog with me most days, and from finding those positive possums, and then we'd fan out, and the Dactylanthus was never further than 50 metres away. And so all our volunteers, at least we knew through those possums there was Dac somewhere. And so we'd spread out, and yeah, people would whoop and hollow when they find some plants, and so our little dog pretty much caught on quick, and she taught herself how to track from those possums back to the Dactylanthus. So I ended up on the first intake of predator dogs. So yeah, so that bottom stomach, it's not as purple as the top one. So you can say that there's only a few plants, whereas their top plants, the top possum stomach is like there's probably dozens of plants close by. And it got to the stage where we had a whole lot of other dock staff around the country. I managed to convince them to save all your pest control for autumn when the plants flower, that they either take photos, or they were sending stomachs through the mail. And we live remote, so it snail mail So some days there'd be a swarm of flies around the mailbox. And so I can remember my poor suffering wife having to put up with all of these gifts from around the country. But it was good when there was definitely, chewed up dactylanthus in there. So yeah, from there, I managed to get a little dog going. Because we found thousands at East Cape, and so the true test for me was to go elsewhere and use their skills elsewhere. And so there was historic records. Those were the first places we'd go and check. And so I'd get all the dock staff in those places to go and put out possum traps, and then we'd show up the next day and then bang all the possums on the head and open them up, and then through finding if there was any positive possums, and then our little dog Moiti would whip away and find the plants. And so they'd do all the hard work, and we'd get all the stories in the paper and all of that, get all the glory. And so yeah, we looked on a few islands, Aotea, Great Barrier, and so it was a hard case when we were asking for permission to go out there to search for DAC. and with a DAC dog, their locals weren't too keen on that, but I was just saying that not that DAC. So yeah, so we had to have the proof of that she could do what she could do. So it's a hard case. And so yeah, we found dactylanthus in quite a few places across the North Island. So that was a definite highlight for me, because previous to that, it was all about, sending people in, trying to look for a needle in a haystack. And so yeah, we ended up in the recovery group. And so this is one of the letters that our recovery group president wrote to our Mohuti for Christmas. So yeah, I know how much you love your job and being out with Graeme and his bottomless friends, especially when they've got food. You'll be pleased to know that they love you too. As a token of our appreciation, all you've done is the world's one and only DAC dog. I have great pleasure in presenting you with some photos of you with your tame bottomless friends. Yeah, so that was a definite highlight. So this next lot of photos, when you're talking landscape scale control, especially at home, you've got to involve the old like the stakeholders, and so that's all the hunters. And so this is me and my whānau, and so yeah, how do you expect people to engage with something and if they're not doing it anymore? And so yeah, so these are all from, these next round of images are all from Te Rau Kumara, and they're over a 20-year period. So yeah, all the animals were big and fat and healthy, and everyone was having a good time. And then yeah, and then what's this? Yeah, these are all from over a period of time in Te Rau Kumara, over a 20-year period. So, and then we get to today. So yeah, so that photo was taken last year. So that's what we've ended up with in Te Rau Kumara now. So you can imagine what the habitat looks like that animal there is living in. So that's where my talk's going to now. So it all looks hunky-dory from the air. It looks lovely and green, but yeah. So what we're dealing with is a disconnection between people and place, which started nearly 2 centuries ago. So 5 or 6 generations ago, and continues today. So my experience with Rau Kumara goes back 50 years as a 5-year-old, following my father for 9 months of the year as he skinned possums, because it was really lucrative back in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, we'd spend the whole winters in there. So back then possums were just establishing, and deer we're just a novelty. Both species spread from the south through Te Uruwera and the Waiweka Gorge into the Raukumara. So we hunted the northern Raukumara, so possums were a novelty, or deer were a novelty, I mean. So with my father, we would spend all day lay inside night pace walking up most of the big rivers. We seldom used to venture up the sides because it was thick, impenetrable, dark, and yeah, pretty gloomy. And so back in those days, it was normal to see 20 plus feel, you know, blue ducks all day, every day. And yeah, most of the rivers we possum hunted up, you'd see blue ducks. Fast forward to today, and as a biodiversity ranger or tai ao kaimahi, those same rivers, we get excited if we find a feather next to some fresh, you know, duck shit on a boulder, and so we send that feather away. A couple of weeks later, we might get confirmation that, yay, there's still a blue duck somewhere out there. There's still a few there, a few somewhere. So yeah, big changes over the 30 years. So this is the area we're talking about. So that includes Te Uruwera in the south, Waiweka, and Raukumara heading north. It's part of the largest remaining ahere in the North Island. So there's about a dozen iwi, and our Aotearoa pane, rongo whakaata, te aitanga amahaki, te aitanga hauati, Ngāti Parau, te whānau apanui, Ngāi Tai, te whakatohia, Ngāi Tūhoi, Ngāti Manawa, Ngāti Whare, and hundreds of hapu. But this is our area of interest, and everything inside those orange lines is public conservation land. And so that's all the light green colour, and all the blue is privately owned, multiply owned land, but it's with the same sort of habitat on it. So ngā whenua rahui blocks, they're all protected. So I hope this is going to work. So these are the issues. So protection values of Raukumara are severely...
Just click it again, it should play.
Ah, good one, thank you. Yeah, so the protection values of Raukumara have been severely compromised. So you'll see in this next lot of slides. So 70% of Raukumara has a 30-degree slope. And you'll see this in this video. So not safe for people on the ground. Higher parts of the Raukumara receive over 4 metres per annum. I think it's doubled that over the last couple of years whilst at home. We've got another, we're just worrying about how we're going to get home tomorrow, so got our roads closed again. So yeah, the crucial thing for me is that we we get those protection values back, because it's a waste of time saving the kiwi and stuff if they've got no home to live in. So the mossy carpets used to cover everything from the mountain tops right to the sea, and so I can remember as a young fella sleeping on that on those mossy carpets, you'd sink up to your knees. And so that mossy carpet during heavy rain, like 30% of the rain would be intercepted by the canopy, 30% dissipates down the trunk, and then what hit the forest floor was just soaked up by this mossy carpet. And so what that used to do was regulate all the flows through the air with slow release, plus it would recharge all our puna, all our aquifers, and that's all been compromised now because of too many introduced animals. So, yeah. So in the helicopter this day we had the Conservation Minister and our iwi leadership, which is showing them what's going on. So you can see all the grey trees there, those are all deep tōtara, eaten by possums. But you can see just how steep this place is. Straight up and down. In conservation circles, Raukumara is one of its nicknames is the Fiordland of the North. And that's got nothing to do with glaciers or fields, it's just similar terrain. See how steep it is. So yeah, that's and so yeah, so I can show you that that slip we just flew around. That's it there. So there's the landscape. So you know you can't see it from the road. You have to see it from the air. So the place is falling to bits. It's just overrun with too many possums and deer are the main issue for us at home. So huge amounts of sediment on the move, and it's all happening out of sight and out of mind. The fragile geology is unravelling before our eyes. Weet-Bix rock is how I describe it. So yeah, it's all falling to bits, and all our riverbeds back home are rising, choked up with sediment, and you know where we all live in the lowlands, so it's a huge issue for us. So here's some photos of the changes over the years. It's the beauty of Google. And so yeah, there's not much green in that understory. So yeah, so really disheartening as a plant lover to be working in there. And we used to do the seedling pallet lines, and it would take two of us 10 hours to do one line, and then there was measuring everything from grasses to orchids to ferns to saplings and everything, and then we can do the same. You can do 3 lots of lines and do them by 2 o'clock. And so yeah, there's only seedlings and canopy, that's it. So that's the issue we're dealing with. So, and then more so for us, like this is on the back of Hikurangi. So yeah, spot the green in that understory. So yeah, it's, you know, the Forgotten Forest is one of the names, and so yeah, it's just, you know, East Cape's a long way from Wellington is how a kind way of putting it. So yeah, some more images. So yeah, I was, you know, having to deal with all of this, and then was one of our daughters. She was sick of my mates trying to get in contact with her through her Facebook. So I wasn't on to the social media, but she sort of highlighted to me that, you know, about how you could start sharing some of these images with our community was always the target audience for me. And so yeah, these are all deer related. So the ring barking, no more mossy carpet, nothing on the ground for the possums to eat, so they're just eating holes in the canopy, so the rain just goes straight through onto the ground, and on that steep country just washes away. Starving deer eating ring barking and killing trees, erosion in motion. So yeah, how do we turn it around? So yeah, we've got our ancestral trails, our arotipuna, that link in Ruatoria and Takaha. So yeah, it was all about taking our whānau and, you know, to see for themselves. So when you're talking about, you know, big landscapes like ours, yeah, it's not the easiest place to get around. And so when we started this, you know, putting the feelers out for this project, people were, you know, saying, oh, get all our young ones in there and do trapping, and get the unemployed in there to do the trapping, and you know, that's just from people who don't know. And so yeah, let's take them in there, and you know, take 6 days to walk across through some pretty challenging terrain, and by day 2, all of that sort of is out the window. My moko ain't going in there. So the best, you know, saves having endless hui and then getting no outcome. So yeah, so these are various groups that we've organised over the last 3 or 4 years. And when we put out the call to do these other, you have to restrict them to 30 people because, you know, health and safety, big groups, and we'd get 100 people that want to come on them. So, which is really heartening for me because it's the next level up from keyboard warriors to come and see for themselves. So yeah, so you know, our project is about whānau Apanui in Ngāti Parau, caring for, you know, Māori restoration for raukomara, and so it's brought our two iwi closer together. It's been a highlight for me. So yeah, some of the places where we go and on these trips. And you know, it's a rainforest, so you know it rains, and so I'm always happy when it rains, because yeah, that's there's not much you can do. You just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other if you want to get home to or back to the couch. So yeah, it's a pretty challenging landscape. And so yeah, some of my local heroes. And he's still keen to give it another go too, old Machachu, so massive. So yeah, it's pretty much how we turned it around. I was lucky enough, because I've lived there, born and bred there, and know who all the movers and shakers are. And so yeah, picking the right people. I didn't care if they never had a conservation background, but if they were sort of looked on as leaders or future leaders in their communities, we chuck them on these groups and get them to go in. And then taking them in there to see for themselves, I always felt like it was only half the job. So, you know, they all see that there's a big issue, and none of them recommend their mokopunas to be going in there and do the mahi. So what does that leave? So yeah, so some more confronting images. Well, I've got your fellas' attention. All these big tōtara all killed, you know, eaten by, defoliated by possums, and just thousands and thousands of them. So yeah, taking various of our iwi leadership groups in there, the ones that make the decisions. So yeah, got closer with our iwi leadership over this journey. And yeah, this is another photo of our last hikoi on the backside of Hikurangi. So yeah, absolutely nothing green in that photo. One of the highlights coming out on one of those udders. So yeah, there was our Apanui whānau, they had bought one of their whanaunga back from, I think he's a chef over in France, so he had the full chef gears on, had the pom-pom hat and all that, and so, and he whipped up that feast, and so that's when we came out on one of these trips, so it was definitely a highlight for me. And so yeah, so from there we got funding. 30, I think, was the biggest funded project, Jobs for Nature project. So it was for 4 years, but with COVID and all the rest of it, we've managed to get push it out to 2026. But we're not going to be going through all this effort, because it is a huge effort. It's been a big drain, taxing to get us up and going. So the last 44 jobs have just been advertised. So there's 3 more roles to fill, and then that'll be 44 positions that'll all filled by locals. So yeah, really cool. And you know, there was talk of that we were going to struggle to fill these positions, but like for the kai mahi on our Ngāti Porou kai mahi, I think there was 6 roles or 5 roles, but we created a 6th one because of the demand. So there was 24 people that put in for 6 jobs. So we've ended up with some pretty top-notch workers. So really happy about that. We've also, so I'll just rattle off some of the jobs. We've got our kai mahi. They're the ones that do the work on the ground. They do all the monitoring and stuff for across the raukomara. Then we've got aerial colours. We've got 4, 2 in Ngāti Porou, 2 in Te Whanapanui. Then we've got one of our Ngāti Porou aerial colours is a wahine, and she's just beating all the men at the moment, shooting the most deer out of the helicopter. So yeah, I was quite proud of her, because you know, though she was a little bit, most of the wahine were a bit shy to, you know, put their names forward, because they just thought that this was going to be a man's blokes thing or whatever. And so I was one pushing the hardest about getting the gender balance right. So I think it's 40-60 at the moment. So yeah, really happy with that. And yeah, so goat colours and colours on the ground, then team leads, operations supervisors, and then managers, and yeah, 44 in total. And yeah, so another one of the projects funded was our Myrtle Rust project. So yeah, seven in here. So super proud of our crew there because you know, because of Jobs for Nature funding, there's 51 jobs at home involved around tile restoration mahi that weren't there, you know, 2 or 3 years ago. So it's all about getting our own building, our capacity and capability, especially in this Myrtle Rust space, to respond instead of just being the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. The plan is for us to show that we're going to do what we said we were going to do with the funding, and then, you know, to have more say at all levels of the biosecurity space. So yeah, so we had our taurere up our way with all the floods and everything, and so it's good that he's got an interest in what we're up to, and yeah, he's going to be documenting what we do as the actual mahi on the ground. So yeah, so when talking with landscapes like the one that we have to deal with, it's you know, for a lot of people the elephant in the room is 1080, and a lot of these people that are in that photo, they were, I can safely say a couple of years ago, they were definitely anti-1080, and so that's because they just didn't know. And so most of them have all been in, done the hikoi and everything and seen, you know, there's no more birds left in there. You wake up day after day and you hear more birds here in the cities than out there, and it's because that understory is gone. So, and sad for me because I remember when you just couldn't sleep in 30 years ago. There's no chance. It was just rocking. So yeah, we've it's been a grass-led project right from the start, and yeah, how we've managed to get around all the different stakeholders and the different factions is including them all, because, you know, they've all got a say, they live there. So the hunters was, you know, as you saw earlier, I love my hunting, you know, free meat's always going to be the sweetest meat, but not if the tiles, you know, paying the price that it is at the moment. Nobody wins if the tile looks like this. So yeah, so with engaging with the hunters, it was all about, you know, this is not about eradication because we haven't got the ability or the tools to, you know, wipe deer or pigs out of places like that. They're always going to be there, and so you can see the ripple go out across the crowd. They thought we were going to, you know, we're trying to wipe them all out, but we can manage them, get their numbers down, so that the ecosystem comes back, which has to be number one. It has to be number one, and then those few animals that are left out there will be in better nick. It's just like a farm that's been overstocked. You've got too much stock, they eat the place out, and then they're all going to end up being skinny, and no one wants to eat a skinny sheep or a skinny cow. So it's the same, and, you know, you've got to talk in the same language so that, you know, our hunters at home can understand that. And so yeah, we've been given the all clear to, we had funding through the project to do 80,000 hectares, and that's been bumped up to 125,000 hectares because of those neighbouring Ngā Whenua Rahui blocks. They've wanted them, the owners want them to be treated as well. So it was a really good day when we went back to the department, and they, you know, all the aerial operations they do in the country, they always go down in hectarage because people go, nah, we don't want it over here, move it there. And so I just loved the day when, like, it took them a while for it to sink in. They were saying, no, it's more. And they go, no, that's never happened. I said, no, it has. And, you know, just the look at the stunned mullet look on their faces, because, so we were lucky, and to me that was a show of support for our community. So yeah, so it was in March. So because it's so big, it's 125,000 hectares, and logistically you couldn't do that all at once. East Cape's a long way from anywhere. So we broke it into 3. So the first block was pre-fed and treated with aerial with 1080 in March 2023, and we were hoping to do the other 2, but you know, we're just trying to get washed off the face of the planet. I just don't understand the weather we're having at home. It's like, yeah, we just haven't been able to get 2 or 3 sunny days in a row since all this mahi was programmed to go ahead in August, September last year. But we're going to make it to August, September this year because we've only managed to do one block, and so the pressure's on. Because, you know, with the cyclone recovery and the government's trying to find spare money or money not being used, and so our project's got all this money just sitting there, you know, not being used because we just haven't had that fine weather. So it's frustrating to get our community support, and you know, we all of us in leadership roles in this project wish that it was all, you know, all done and dusted by now. So yeah, so yep, more ugly images, but not for long. So yeah, so this is our awa, the Waiapu, and the one on the left. And so my house is in that the image on the left. And so with all the erosion coming out of the Waiapu, out of the Raukumara, the beds rising, and so all our beautiful flat land is just, it'll be getting gobbled up as I speak, because it's pouring down at rain at home. And so, you know, got a vested interest in trying to get this sorted, you know, to get those protection values back. Otherwise, we won't be able to live at home. Simple as that. So, the protection values first, and then the biodiversity values. And yeah, this project's about maunga to moana. And so this is, we live on a coastal property. And I've got no doubt this will be happening right now on our beach. This was Cyclone Gabriel, I think so. And we lost all our kai moana, thousands and thousands of pāwas and koura. And so yeah, just some days you one step forward and then 10 back. And so yeah, so as we all know, what we do on the land impacts the moana. For my hapu and where we live, we are given constant reminders of the various land uses in the upper catchment. A recent 1 in 100 year flood in February, followed by another 101 year flood in March, and then another one in June, a 200 year flood. And I said, oh, all those sort of scales they're not there anymore. You know, it's just, there's no going back. This is just the norm, I think. So we need to be looking at landscape scale protection. You know, there's no, drains just can't handle what comes out of the sky. And I'm talking about, you know, not just modern infrastructure, but our water courses and everything like that. So yeah, some more photos of the landscape. Yeah, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Wai te whare nei e, ko te kani, wai te teko ke runa, ko pai ke a, whakatau pai ke a, whakatau e tipu ai, whakatau e tani mai, au pai ke a i aua.
I can't bear to thank you like that, my bro.
Oh, thank you.
Can I take your thing? Tēnā koe iho. Thank you very much. Got a little something for you there, and a do not crush box, which none of the others are getting. You might need that from where you're from. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, eh? Oh, questions? Sure. And burning questions. Do we have any of those happening at the moment? Who's got one? Tauho? Yeah, you do.
Have you seen any positive results from the work that you've done so far?
Too soon, I think, but we've got all photo points and stuff. For me, the positive stuff is in our community. You know, we've managed to, like 3 years ago, you couldn't even talk about TNA in a public forum at home. No way. So, you know, the bad old days, my family had to move away from home, so yeah, so there's that side of it. So we had people coming around our house at night time and stuff. So like you saw in that photo where I live, it's down the end of a one end road. So yeah, so and that's all changed now. So you know, the majority of the community support what we do, and so it's a huge undertaking. You know, I know those of us that have been involved from the start. You know, getting our heads around what we're trying to do, so it's such a challenging landscape. So yeah.
Okay. We can take one more question. Here we go. First in, first served. You've got to be quick, whānau.
Just you had that slide that showed all the pictures of the slash on the beach there. Would that be mostly coming from forestry, or do you think that some of that collapsing native timber is contributing to that?
Yeah, so I'm good mates with the Gisborne District Council, their head scientist, and yeah, after every cyclone, he's on his beach doing his little plots and everything, trying to find out the composition of what ends up on our beach. And so, yeah, it's 50% pine, 20% poplars, 30% willows, and I go 10% banana. You know, he's already got to toe the party line, you know, so we're still waiting for, you know, we've got like cyclone rings on our beach, so we're still waiting for you know, it's the majority of it is pine trees, so, because it will come out of the catchment, so, but no one's going to admit to cleaning it up, because Tolaga Bay gets all the press, because then, you know, justifiably, because there's more people that live there, and so, yeah, more people to jump up and down, but there's only about 6 of us that live out where I live, and yeah, just nothing ever happens, you know, as far as ownership of that mess, and he's going to clean it all up. So it was really, really heartbreaking when we lost all our kaimona, because we took all those images. I don't know if you've seen them on social media, but what you couldn't see was like all the thousands of little piles like that. And, you know, that's the future generation gone. So what are we leaving for our kids? You know, there's going to be nothing.
Okay, thank you very much. Homai te paki paki.
Thank you.